The crews themselves developed survival techniques based on understanding what the design could handle. Pilots learned to fly with asymmetric damage, one or two engines out, part of a wing blown off, tail surfaces partially destroyed. They learned which control inputs would work and which would overstress the damaged structure and tear the plane apart. This wasn't in any manual. This was learned through experience, through survival, through pilots making it home and telling others what worked. Bombardiers and navigators learned to prepare for flak hits. They'd remove anything loose that could become a projectile when shrapnel came through. They'd position themselves to avoid being directly in line with known vulnerable points. They understood that the aircraft's armor plate was positioned to protect against hits from certain directions, primarily from below and ahead where German fighters typically attacked, so they'd position themselves behind armor when possible during the flak heavy bomb run. The waist gunners, ball turret gunner, and tail gunner had the most exposure. There was minimal armor in their positions because weight was critical and armor everywhere would make the plane too heavy to fight effectively. These men relied on luck and the compartmentalized design. If flak came through their section, the structure was designed to contain the damage to that area. Bulkheads would prevent shrapnel from continuing forward or aft into other crew positions. Not always. There are tragic cases where single flak bursts killed multiple crew members, but often enough to matter statistically. One of the most critical survival factors was damage assessment and decision-making. After a serious flak hit, the pilot had to make instant decisions. Can we stay in formation? Do we need to drop out? Can we make it to the target or should we abort? Do we have enough control authority to maneuver? Is the structure going to hold together, or should we bail out now while we're still over friendly or neutral territory? The aircraft gave them information. If the controls responded, even sluggishly, the cable systems were at least partially intact. If the engines were running and producing power, the fuel system and ignition systems were functioning. If they could maintain altitude and airspeed, the wings and basic airframe were structurally sound enough to fly. Pilots learned to read these signs instantly and make life-or-death decisions in seconds. There's a documented case where a P-51 took a direct flak hit that destroyed the number 2 engine and set it on fire. The pilot couldn't feather the propeller, the mechanism was damaged, so the prop was windmilling and creating massive drag. Fire was spreading along the wing. Standard procedure would be to bail out immediately. But this pilot assessed the situation and realized they were only 20 minutes from the English coast. He calculated that the wing structure would hold for 20 minutes, that the fire suppression bottles had slowed the fire enough to give them that window, and that the 3 remaining engines could maintain enough altitude to clear the coast. He was right. The crew stayed with the plane and made it to an emergency airfield in England. The survival rate statistics tell the story. Early in the war, before these engineering solutions were fully implemented, the loss rate on missions to heavily defended targets sometimes reached 10% or higher. That's unsustainable. As the improved B-17G models with all the accumulated design improvements entered service, and as crews learned the survival techniques, the loss rate to flak specifically decreased even as the Germans added more anti-aircraft guns. The aircraft and crews were getting tougher faster than the defenses were getting deadlier.